Roebling, Grace Hopper, and Louis Latimer. The students were divided into groups to research and then develop a presentation that answered the guiding questions that you see here on the slide, such as how did the innovator come up with their idea? How did the innovator get help from others? What did the innovator do when they reached an obstacle? And how did the innovator make change? And what they also realized through this process is that innovators don't have to be inventors. Innovators, like Sean studied Louis Latimer, is someone who improves upon an idea that was already invented, and that is really important as well. I remember when Sean actually was doing his research, he was like, but he didn't actually invent anything. But we realized that he actually improved so many things that had already been invented. If you want to click to the next slide. Oh, wait, actually, can you go back? There should be. So then we knew we wanted an interactive part of this unit, and we went back and forth about what to do. Ultimately, we brought a project that Ms. Rainey had actually done in a previous school because we realized how well it connected with a real problem that Bronxville has, which is flooding. And so the task of building a floating school came to Bronxville. And Ms. Rainey will go more into the design thinking process, which led us to building this part. But in this part, the students become innovators themselves, and they answer the essential question, based on what you learned about the qualities and strengths of innovators, how can we develop an idea that will benefit our community? Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. And we actually, when we initially designed this unit, we didn't have this as part of it, but then we used the Bronxville Promise language as a bridge between these two parts of the project. And we also changed the language. That's the standard, the New York State standard says entrepreneur, but we changed the language of our unit to innovator. Now, in the second part of the unit, now you can go to the next slide, Connie, thank you so much. Perfect. In the second part of the unit, the students are becoming innovators themselves, and they are developing a set of criteria to connect their innovator research to guide their hands-on experience. So first we asked students what were words, ideas, or phrases that they would use to describe an innovator. You can see some of their brainstorming there. And they recorded these ideas with their research group on chart paper. We had the students do a gallery walk around the classroom and observe repeating words, ideas, and phrases across the groups. So you can see that on the bottom right of the slide, and you also have some of that work in your packet. And we also looked at the language of the Bronxville Promise as part of this step. Next, we had students brainstorm I can statements to represent what they wanted to be as an innovator. We shared as a class. And then the students used this criteria to develop a class innovation criteria for success. You can see it says things like, I can overcome obstacles. I can change the community or world into a better place. I can be an inspiring leader. I can persevere. I can be curious. I can take risks. I could be a creative and critical thinker. And they used this criteria when they were given the floating schools task in which they needed to become an innovator. And now Kate will talk about design thinking.
Okay, so we use the design thinking model to make this whole section of the project. It was the framework for the second part of the project. So the first stage, empathy, is a very important one, and that's where all the students take time to reflect about how flooding has personally affected them. This fourth grade class all had a joint memory of wanting to go to that Pete the Cat assembly and having to evacuate the school due to a flood. So that was very prominent and something that really affected them and made them feel like this was an important topic to explore and fix this issue. So during the define stage of the design thinking model, fourth graders first attend an assembly that Dan Carlin leads in the auditorium. So they learn all about the history of the flooding in the Bronxville school. They learn through pictures of the actual damage and flooding, and they also learn about how much it costs to improve the school and fix those damages. Then they watch videos of floating schools in Bangladesh during the monsoon season so that students can learn safely in these school boats during the monsoon season and don't need to miss out on any learning. Then we watch videos from FEMA that talk about how they've rebuilt houses in Florida and South Carolina to withstand severe flooding from hurricanes. So during the ideate stage, that's when students put all of everything that they learned during the define stage and everything they've been through during the empathy stage, and they really plan with their groups. They make a blueprint for a prototype that they want to build. So they can take one of two approaches, really. Either they make a floating school or they make a school that's up on stilts so that the water can't reach the school building. During the testing stage, this is where things get really fun. So we put their prototype in a bin of water, and then we blow a blow dryer at it to simulate the raising water levels and the high winds. And students need to see if their prototype actually works. So we test inside the prototype, make sure that there's no water inside, that it's dry. So if they fail, they go back and they revise. They bring back their prototype and they retest, and they keep retesting until they succeed. Some groups who succeed early on, they get a challenge. So either build a second floor of your school or build a playground that goes around with your school. So then they can also retest and they can make new revisions to their building. The example on the end that you see is actually an interesting example because this group, they were the last to finish in my class. However, what they did during the whole process was they watched every single test. And as they saw the tests and what failed and what worked, they actually were revising during the building process. So what they came with was a model that worked right away. It had a lot of the challenges that I had given other students. So that was their own revision process that they actually worked on while they were working and revised based on the successes and failures of other buildings and prototypes. The reflect stage is the last stage of the design thinking model, but that actually happens throughout the whole process. So you can see in your handouts, that's really the whole reflection. Every single stage of the process, students go into their journals, they reflect, they write personal anecdotes, they share what they're thinking and what their plans are. And then of course we do a reflection at the end where they can talk about what went well, what were the challenges, and how they're going to use this to become innovators in the future.
Hi, my name is Renly, and I am a 4th grader in Miss Wright's class. I think an innovator is somebody who is hardworking, creative, improves and fixes things, and always tries new things. I was an innovator during the Floating Schools project by improving the way my boat floated. The first time, we thought it was going to sink because the boat had cardboard at the bottom, so after a while the cardboard would start to get soggy and sink. So we improved our design by adding plastic wrap and actual plastic cartons. It made our school more sustainable and sturdy. For the design inside the school, we wanted to make it comfortable and a good learning space for the students. So we added tables, chairs, computers, and pencil cases. We kept adding and improving, so we were never really finished with it. Our group tried new things by adding styrofoam to the bottom, but that didn't work. And then we tried popsicle sticks to hold up our roof, but that was too small. And then making our solar panels, we were going to use just tape, but then we tried tinfoil and it worked much better. So sometimes our ideas worked, but if they didn't, we worked together and came up with a new idea quickly.
Hi, my name is Sean and I'm a 4th grader in Miss Wright's class. I think innovators create something, they think critically, and they're constantly improving ideas. We were innovators by repairing the boat if it started to sink. At first, we only had 2 bottles on the sides, but we realized we had to add more bottles to the back and the side to keep the whole thing afloat. So we improved our design and our idea. We had to keep thinking of ways to solve problems. It wasn't just the bottom that was the problem. It was also the top because we made the platform not sturdy enough. It was held up by straws and it was too top heavy. We improved it by taking some of the weight off the top and readjusted the straws. Our group had to think critically to find out how to solve the problems we encountered. We also had the challenge of not only being able to use the resources that we had because they were limited. So sometimes we had to think of a new idea if we didn't have the materials we needed.
Do we have any questions, or do we say?
That was amazing, guys. Really, really amazing.
Did you enjoy this?
Did you find some materials work better than others?
Yeah. I felt like anything plastic made the boat more sturdy, and like basically anything plastic helped the boat float. So we used a lot of that.
Yeah, like plastic and the tape, because the tape
amazing.
Sealed it, right?
Yeah, it's it.
Great work, guys.
Very good.
So
Amazing.
well done.
So well done.
Thank you for being here tonight. I know it's late for a school night, for you teachers also, so thank you. Get home safely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Fourth grade buddies.
I think that's the highlight of Dan Carlin's years, when he gets to run that assembly.
It's the Q and A, the
It's-
questions and answers. I'd still be there if they didn't cut it off.
That's great. That's great. I'm gonna move on to my highlights. So I wanna start off, by giving the community an update on our study group. As I committed to, we held our first study group meeting last week. And to remind everyone, our members include district leadership, Dan Carlin, our assistant superintendent for business, Ann Meyer, assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, Anthony Vaglica, our director of PE, health, and athletics, and Mike Lee, our facilities director. In addition, we had our board facilities committee, which is Susan Kniff, Sarah Kenny, and Eddie Lennon, and then 6 community members: Anthony Savali, Jonathan Davis, Holt Goddard, Carrie Long, Brian Sestak, and Neil Stronsky. So the purpose of this initial session was to define the problem we were looking to solve, and that relates to field availability during daylight hours. What also came up in discussion was the bus driver shortage as well as referee shortage. So we reviewed all of those challenges. The group discussed some unanswered questions and brainstormed potential solutions. Each member was delegated a follow-up task to research that will be discussed at our next scheduled meeting, which is on Tuesday, January 6th. So I appreciate everybody's understanding that we have this process in place. We are engaged in this process, and we will certainly keep the community abreast as we do our research and hopefully come up with some solutions. I'd also like to give some highlights from 3 of our schools. In the high school, many electives are progressing well. These are taught by our students, and 4 options that are currently being offered this quarter are Figures in Focus, an Intro to Web Development, Basics of Military History, and Mission to Action, Developing a Startup. Course selection process will commence upon our return from the holiday recess, and the course catalog has already been shared with the high school families. High school clubs have organized a series of successful fundraisers and food drives to support various groups and organizations throughout this holiday season. We had last weekend to support our football championship game and to support school spirit. We had a fan bus that left here at some god-awful hours that Saturday morning. I'm very grateful to the chaperones, and they rode up to Syracuse and helped cheer on the championship game. In performing arts, we have had our secondary concerts for orchestra and band, and they were held last week and truly spectacular, and we look forward to the chorus concert tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. In middle school, our 7th graders continued the tradition of the Graham Wyndham Project. This service-based project attempts to make the holidays a little happier for children who need some extra support, especially around the holidays. Our students did an incredible job collecting, gathering, wrapping, and supporting one another in this project. Yesterday, 2 full truckloads of gifts were delivered, and according to Principal Joe McCora, it was the biggest collection we've had in a decade. Incredible. And in our elementary school, every grade has been welcoming families in for the holiday breakfasts. For first grade, the breakfast was preceded by the choral concert led by our elementary music teacher, Marina Brown. First graders also enjoyed viewing the premiere of their B3 recess movie. First graders spent time researching solutions to common recess challenges and collaborated with filmmakers from the Bronxville Picture House to film how-to scenes that model positive problem solving that is needed on the playground. Once again, 5th grade student council led a successful drive, this time for Toys for Tots. And we're excited to announce that the following elementary school musicians were accepted into the elementary school all-county band and all-county orchestra. William Darwin on baritone, Emily Fong on violin, and Usei Taketa, Emily Cow, and Sophie Schneider on the viola. Congratulations to all of them. And finally, we're gearing up for the elementary school play, Frozen Junior, and we couldn't be able to do that without the support of the PTA and BASC, and so we thank them for coordinating the elementary school theater performance. So thank you, everybody. And now we're going to move on to personnel.
Yep.
Quick agenda this evening you have before you. We have a revised list of curriculum leaders, team leaders, and teacher mentors, and that's based on movement due to leave replacements. You do have before you 2 leave replacements for the elementary school, as well as a teacher aide resignation and a replacement. And then I'm pleased that we have a few new substitute teachers, as well as a new teacher resident. Also before you is a resolution to create a new civil service position entitled bus driver maintenance. And although we don't have someone yet to fill that, we're hoping we will shortly. So I'm asking you to consider items A through P tonight, please.
Take them together, Connie? Yeah. Any questions for Rachel on the personnel? All right. Motion to approve the personnel action items, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
We have a financial update, which is pretty much very close to the previous month. The projection is conservative and it remains unchanged. I'm confident in projecting at least a $100,000 surplus from salaries in the current year, resulting in from the replacement of retired employees. I'm still guarded where the overall expenditures are looking at this point for the full year, so I'm not yet comfortable enough to project a further surplus from expenditures, as we're still dealing with the impact of the last few inflationary years. Revenues continue to project a surplus as both non-resident tuition and interest earnings will be favorable for the year. Thus, I'm forecasting a combined surplus of about $400,000, which gives us a decent start going into the budget season. Happy to answer any questions. Hearing none, I just want to say something about budget development for 2026-2027. I anticipate getting the first draft of the budget out by the end of this week. Then the Finance Committee will review it in January and talk about it a little bit, and then the whole board will get together either, I think, last Saturday in March or the first one in February, around that time. January. For a Saturday morning review. And what I've seen so far is that we have some recent news regarding some of the budget assumptions. Preliminary health insurance rates are out. for our Swiss chip program. That's going to be an increase of between 8 and 9%, which is unfortunately consistent with the industry and trend. And we're working on developing our own alternative, which eventually could help impact this trend. And Swiss Chip, I found out this week, is also looking to develop an alternative high deductible option in response primarily to pressure from some of the people at this table.
Great.
What do you know?
That's amazing.
Good news.
Great news.
And we also received our tax-based growth factor, which is going to be 36 basis points, which increases our allowable tax levy to about 2.36%. We still have one more piece, and that's state aid, which will impact that. And we've received the range for teacher retirement system contributions, which is down from 9.59% to a range of between 8.25% to 8.5%. That was announced this week, which at the top of the range represents an 11% reduction, which is very good news. Still up in the air until I finish later this week, but it's possible that we will either request an override of the cap for the first time ever, as inflation is really catching up to us, specifically with contracted services and supplies and things of that nature, or have some tough decisions over the next few months. But I'll have a better idea once I get everything done over the next couple of days. We have a financial action item. We finalized a contract with Strength Beyond the Barbell, which for the last 2 years has been a foundation grant, which provides strength and conditioning services to our student athletes in all 3 seasons. It's been, by all accounts, very successful. I think and our athletic director and our prior athletic director were big supporters of this. Student athletes that I've spoken with love it. I think, truthfully, if you just look at it, our football team really finished the season with very few injuries this year. That's what I judge, is how many people are walking around on crutches by the end of the season, and they were pretty much at full strength, which is I think the proof is in the pudding there. So I think the prior athletic director and Anthony, I think both recommended continuing this. So we have the contract finalized. And we'd like to continue her again for this year. And truth be told, it's retroactive because she did do the fall season. And there is a capital, Albert's, the capital transfer. This is just moving the $5 million from the construction reserve to the general fund, and then moving it from the general fund to the capital fund, as approved by the voters in May. This is just the accounting to do it.
So Dan, on the strength and conditioning contract, did this start as a foundation grant?
Yes, for 2
Okay.
years.
And so we've been so happy with it that we're making it a part of our.
That's the way a lot of the innovations from the foundation
Right,
work, is
right.
they give us the seed money to experiment. And this is an experiment
Yeah.
that we're seeking to continue.
No, that's great.
So, I mean, much thanks to the foundation, as
Yeah.
always.
Okay.
We take these together, Connie?
Yes.
Any other questions for Dan? Can I have a motion to approve the financial action items, please?
Motion?
All in favor? Aye.
Moving on to facilities, there isn't a lot going on, but there has been a lot going on, and there's about to be a lot going on. We're in between our current projects, which is the vestibule, is pretty much done with the exception of the doors, which we were told would be available by Thanksgiving, and both Mike Lee and I shook our heads every time they told us that. And it turns out we are right. They're delayed until the new year. Contractor will be out here as soon as they arrive to install the final doors and the trim around the fire shutters, and let us know when all that is complete, and then we'll be in the punch list phase. Good news is, despite taking a little longer because of supply chain issues for doors and windows, we've had this issue for years now. Very successful project, no change orders on the vestibule. Flood pump shelter, same thing, that's pretty much done. There's a change order on the agenda tonight, and that was a request by us. It had nothing to do with any discovered conditions or flaws in design or anything like that. We want to try and protect the fence, the viewing of the pumps from Midland Avenue with an opaque PVC finish on that. And that's the only change order in that project so far, and it fits well within the allowance for the project. It's a change order for $22,035, and the size of this project had a $50,000 allowance attached to it, so we're actually probably going to spend a little more than $25,000 less than anticipated on this project. And the vestibule had a smaller allowance, but there was an allowance nonetheless. We'll probably spend a little less on that as well.
Thanks for managing those projects. Dan, you and Mike Lee doing a great job with that. Thank you.
And I think we had a meeting earlier today and had discussion with the facilities committee meeting. I don't know. Do you want to handle that, Eddie? Or do you
touch
want
on some of it if you want?
Oh, sure.
Save me something, all right?
Yeah, we had a facilities committee meeting for the next project, and knock on wood, things seem to be going well. The backlog at the state education department for plan review is down to 2 weeks, where in the past it had been 9 months to a year. So that's moving along, which is great, because if we get approvals for that, by say March, we can do an April bid and be ready to shovels in the ground this summer, which I thought was 50-50 at best. And that allows us to avoid an extra year of escalation in construction costs if we can get started this summer. And it's a lot of tough, ugly work. It's asbestos abatement. It's grinding and replacing mortar and brick. It's stuff you don't want to do when the kids are here. And there's some other things involved. Some bathroom renovations we might be able to squeeze in this first summer, things of that nature. But again, it's a successful start. And we did get some good news as far as probing of the metal skeleton of the D-wing that they were very worried was going to have to be replaced. All the probes they did showed that it was still in good shape, which would have been the most expensive part of that project. So we're already starting out with some decent news on that part.
Thanks, Dan.
Not used to giving so much good news, especially as far as construction projects
We
go.
will take it.
Keep it coming.
Thank you, Dan.
Exactly. And we do have that change order action item.
Okay. We need to vote on that. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So motion to approve the change order, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete McSherry is sorry he can't join us tonight. I don't think it's a coincidence that he is chair of the policy committee and we have a policy update. But I told him that it would be my pleasure to review this with the board. So this is a first reading, policy update about the annual reorganization meeting of the Board of Education. New York has changed or amended the law as it relates to this reorganization meeting, and the only change is how it is scheduled. And they're moving from more of a fixed date to a more flexible window. And so the new language reads specifically that the reorganization meeting can now be held on any date on or before the Monday after the 20th day in July. Do you feel like that's a logic problem? A little bit. Pardon me?
No, I just said it in July, but
Yeah.
a resolution has to be set before that. The board has to decide on the date before.
Right, so this is the first reading of the updated policy with this new language about the more flexible window. And then we will do a second reading next month. But then we are still required to set the date at some point before July. And if you ask Dan and you ask me, we would love to have this meeting still as early in July as possible.
Yep.
I got you, Dan. Good. Any questions on that?
Any idea why they decided to offer more flexibility, or was it?
More flexibility.
That's it, just more flexibility? Okay, we'll stick with it.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks, Rachel.
sure.
A motion to approve for first reading? Sarah, first,
Second.
Michael, second.
All in favor? Aye.
I,
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Board reports. Strategy and curriculum is tomorrow morning. Anything from finance?
We didn't meet,
No?
but we talked about finance in the facilities committee meeting.
We did.
yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about a little of the finance
Well, just
aspect
that
of
we
it?
reviewed the most recent rate sheets and discussed the implications of rates not quite being where we hope they'll be. We talked about the pros and cons of a longer amortization versus a shorter amortization, with certain members of the committee preferring shorter. And, you know, there's just still, as Dan pointed out, so many moving parts. We need, once we get estimates in, or actually once we get bids back, really, that's when we have to take another look at the scope of the project and right size it based on what kind of borrowing capacity that we have.
Thanks, Susan. I guess to follow up on some of the items that Dan mentioned from the facilities committee meeting, I think we're looking at this as a 2-year project, 2 summers. The first one, based on the lead time for new windows, the first summer would probably be more interior work. So all of the asbestos abatement hopefully would get done in the first summer, classroom renovations, bathroom renovations, and then in the second summer we could focus on window replacement and the brickwork. So that's kind of what we were discussing based on what the engineers and architects were recommending. But we can circle back with that probably in the new year and finalize that a little bit more once, as Susan mentioned, we start getting the bids coming in. Health and safety was pretty quick this time around. Not much. Rachel ran the meeting. Vic Perini's father passed away, so we're saddened by that. Not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, we were having trouble with the gate at the elementary playground that has the fob. And Mike Lee worked with the contractor to get that fixed. We have very few incidents of lice in the elementary school, which is always a hot topic at health and safety. Our fire drills and lockdown drills are both going according to plan. We're very grateful to the police department. They participate in our lockdown drills where they do where they come in, and they have to find the perpetrator, which is Vic. So it gets especially some of the newer officers familiar with our building. You know, we have 4 different wings, and so that's a really good practice for them and for us. And all of our students and employees really handle it very, very well.
Thanks, Rich. Do you want to touch on Foundation for Pete?
Sure. So the foundation is underway this year with doing a number of fundraisers. They had the Katie Welling Memorial Run, which is historically the Saturday following Thanksgiving. And so it's always a beautiful event in honor of Katie and seeing so many alum come back for that. They are just starting Sip and Shop. How do I not know that? Sip and Shop. So I encourage all of you to look at that advertisement and to participate because it benefits the school. And also just a reminder to everyone to become a PTA member, as well as to do what they can in terms of donating to the foundation, because their support through the annual grants has really been extraordinary for the school.
Yeah. Thank you to the foundation, everything you guys do. Sarah, PTA?
So not much to update except the PTA hosted a lovely holiday tea for all the staff last week, and it's a nice way to kick off the holidays and thank everybody for what they do. And we also want to thank the PTA and wish them a happy holidays and for all that you do for our school and our kids. We greatly appreciate it. So
Thank you, PTA, as always. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Could I just ask, on the health and safety?
Yes.
Rachel, I know you were talking about our partnership with the police department. Is there any conversation about the SRO that we had discussed with the community before? Where is that exactly?
So there is a bit of good news there in that the village board approved an additional officer in their budget, which they are hoping can be used toward the SRO position here at our school. And after that, they had some retirements and resignations. So they are working to hire. They had at least at 1.5 openings. And so they are working to make those hires. And once they are fully outfitted with the proper number of, or the number of officers, then we can engage them in a conversation about what that program can look like.
Is there any conception, is any expectation in your part about, is that 6 months off or a year off, or where is that?
There wasn't a hard deadline, but there is hope that they will be finished with this hiring in the winter. So we may be able to start engaging in conversations with what that program can look like late winter of this year.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Rachel.
I just want to say, audit committee, we'll probably look to schedule a meeting the first week we're back, because we are going to have the draft of the debt investments and cash and internal audit to review with the audit committee. So look for that probably going, maybe a save the date going out in the next two days from Kathleen. And those are usually Zoom meetings anyway, so.
And that was this year's risk assessment.
Yeah, that was the focus audit area. And then
Okay.
they moved right into the risk assessment after the break anyway.
Oh, to see what we'll do
Yep.
next.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Our next meeting is January 14th at 6 p.m. We also have a budget workshop on Saturday, January 31st at 9 a.m. for anybody tuning in. And this is the time where we open the floor to public comments. If anybody has anything. Anything online, Brad? No? Anything else?
So, Gene Reed,
How are you?
thanks for getting back to me. So we have nothing on the lights as of yet. We have, I thought we were going to discuss that at the meeting, but I guess I was just one point. The field lights. That's what
Yeah, so that was the study group update that I gave. So we are not at the point where we can make a recommendation one way or the other. We are exploring all solutions, with lights being one of them. So we will continue to keep the community abreast of the work of this study group. And what we would anticipate is once the study group's work is complete, we would have more of a public forum to kind of share out broadly what the work of the study group has been.
In addition to lights, we're looking at our other fields available, more so than we have access to them right now. Handle Field being one in Eastchester. You know, we pay 33% of the taxes to Eastchester, and we only get the field for one day, one night during the week. So we're looking at that, how we could potentially add capacity there. We're looking at speaking to the county on Scout Field, how we could potentially add capacity there. Iona, so there's other things that we're looking at as well. Possibly turfing the remaining grass to add more practice space if that was something that the community was interested in exploring. So ongoing conversation, no decisions are being made until the public is fully aware of all of the options, and the conversation takes place a lot broader than it is right now.
Yeah, okay. So I was this is my first time I've come to a meeting. And generally, I'm very much pro school with the pumps and everything else. I've never pushed back. The lights, it's kind of like, obviously it's a shock because we're all very close to the field on my block and the townhomes, and want to be involved in the process as much as possible. So that's why I came tonight. But thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and speaking.
Joe Fong, I second everything that Gene just said. Is there any anticipated timing for the public forum that you're thinking about?
So I don't want to evade your question, but we had the first meeting of the study group December 8th. We have this next meeting January 6th. I would anticipate that we're going to have at least a third meeting, if not a fourth. And then after that, I would say we would have the public forum so that we can go wide with everything the study group has researched. So I want to say March, April, but don't quote me because I don't have a full appreciation for the work of the study group yet.
And is that the primary mechanism by which community feedback would be solicited? Or would the study group consider that as well in the meantime?
So the way that I see the sequence of events is for this study group to do the research, to share that wide with the community, and then to hear community feedback. So no decision will be made without more community feedback.
Okay, appreciate it.
And
of course.
Feel free to share any comments, concerns, opinions in between now and then. Obviously, if something's on your mind. Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you. All right, if that's all we've got. Nothing online, Brad? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
This is my phone, and I'm just trying to repower it on to use the. I don't know what happened here. I've never seen this. Yeah, this is something, bro. But you know, delivering those boxes. I was just turning it off and turning it back on, and I have never seen this.
Are you going to drive around?
I'm gonna grab it. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's true. It is 1 square mile.
It won't go away. I've been trying
For us to go grab.